Hello everybody and welcome to Green Star Trading with me, Tom. All views, opinions and ideas expressed in this video are my own and do not constitute financial or trading advice in any way. Right, welcome to Crypto Day here at Green Star Trading. This will be the Friday of every week going forward. Today we are going to be looking at Bitcoin, Ether. I was also going to go over and have a look at a couple of altcoins, probably XRP and SHIB. But first, a quick word about the great benefits of becoming a member of the Green Star Trading Patreon. Now let's say you already appreciate the work I'm doing on YouTube and you want to show your support. Then for just £5 a month that would be greatly appreciated, plus you still bag yourself an exclusive video each week that won't be available on YouTube. Or next you could become a dedicated patron at tier 2 for £10 a month. This will get you the same exclusive video from tier 1, but you will also get access to the Discord, where there are multiple channels in which you can engage and communicate multiple ideas and thoughts with the rest of the community, including myself. This will also give you access to weekly live analysis sessions via the audio channel on the Discord, where I use screen share to share my live analysis, where I am happy to have live discussions and talks about anybody's ideas. You also get access to all previous educational content available on the Patreon, which is also posted on the Discord, and all future educational videos that will be released. Finally, you also get early access to all future YouTube videos. And finally, devoted Patreon tier 3 for £15 a month. You get all of the benefits from tier 1 and tier 2 as previously mentioned, but you also get access to my proprietary stock rating system and my monthly dividend calendar. These are released at the start of each month and they are my stock picks for the month, and each stock is rated out of 30 based on value, company health and dividend. This is for the value investors out there that are not just traders. I myself have always been an investor as well as a trader, and I like to take up long positions in stocks and invest in companies for the long term. So if this is interesting to you, this might be right up your alley. Also, if there is a particular stock you're interested in and you want me to apply my rating system to it, please mention it in the Discord and I'll happily come back to you with a result. Also, if you're struggling to look up the ex-dividend dates for any stocks you may be interested in, please let me know and I'll do that service for you as well. Alright guys, thank you very much for listening, and now let's get back to the video. Okay, welcome back guys. So we're going to start here on Bitcoin on the day time frame in arithmetic scale, and what we're going to have to do here today is we're going to try and keep things as simple as possible because we're stuck in a bit of a range at the minute and we could go either way. I'll come in and have a look at the smaller time frame and I'll show you what I mean in a little while, but I think it's a good idea that we just go over the basic ideas first before we do that. Now, I had a long discussion yesterday on the Green Star Trading Patrons Discord for the first live session I've done. This will be going on every week from now on. It replaces what was the deep dive feature on the Patreon before, which was on a monthly basis. I feel that having a weekly live analysis session offers a lot more value to our members though, so that's what I'll be doing going forward. And after having a long conversation back and forth with some of our members, we were digging into cryptos, we were digging into some stocks yesterday as well, and sharing and discussing some of our members' ideas and potential trade ideas. So I do think it's a really valuable feature going forward. So if that kind of thing sounds interesting to you, then consider signing up to the Patreon, as it is still early in the month. But one of the things we discussed yesterday was Bitcoin, and there is, I would argue, a lot of totally valid confusion at the moment regarding whether or not we put in a sustainable low and whether or not we're heading higher from here or down from here. So I wish I could predict the future and tell you exactly which it's going to be, but all we can do is look at the evidence and try and draw the best conclusions we can. Sooner or later we will get a clear message one way or the other and it will become obvious what we're doing, but at the moment not so much. So here's the count on the daytime frame, and I just want to simplify the various ideas first. So here's my primary count. This is still the more bullish interpretation that I've been following. It's going to remain so until I feel it's no longer viable and we have to consider an alternative. So I think the best thing to do here would be to just remove the count for a moment and talk you through the basic premise. Okay, so the primary bullish count that we're still working on at the moment, we have the idea that we topped over here in a wave 3. We put in a small zigzag to here, a three-way structure to here, and then a 5-wave structure down to here for an A, B, and a C. Okay, and then from there we've worked on the idea of a 1, 2, 1, 2. Zigzag here, flat pattern here, expanding flat pattern here. Okay, now I am starting to lose faith, to be honest. I haven't given up completely on this count. For as long as this low holds, I will hold this count. If we come out of here and we start to impulse, then that will be confirmation that this was likely right. If we get the momentum to support it and the volume to support it, and we break this downward trend, that would also give me confidence that this was the right interpretation and that we're in the 3 of a 3 of a 5. However, if this low breaks, I think I'm going to have to push this count down in probability and choose an alternate as the new primary. Because my main concern is that if this is supposedly intermediate degree and this is supposedly minor degree, it's getting too big to be a wave of smaller degree. Now you could argue that because it's a flat, it's more time consuming than a zigzag, and I will allow, I have given that some allowance in the count, but it's starting to become a little less viable. Now I think the reason is, we had this 3 wave here and we had this 3 wave here, so it screams flat. It screams incoming flat. Then we start an impulse down, but we didn't get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 running flat done, and out we go. We've kind of meandered for a little too long now. It's just a few too many days, and it's starting to stretch it now. Like I said, for as long as this low holds, if we come roaring out of here, then it's still perfectly viable. But I'm just saying, starting to lose a bit of credibility. So on that note, let's look at what could be the viable alternatives. Okay, so the first thing we should cover, if we're going to have a bullish case first, is we should look at the bearish case first and consider this. Okay, so this idea is similar. Instead of topping in the 3 over here, I've moved the 3 to here at primary degree. Now this makes no difference at all to the following swing. I've simply included an alternate correction because I'm doing an alternate count, and it doesn't affect future price action, so I might as well remember the possibility of an alternate way of considering this correction. What it essentially does is it takes the time it took to get here and it shortens it somewhat, and therefore I feel it accommodates the idea of the correction not being complete and lasting longer by counting it this way. So that's what I've done, but it doesn't change anything as to how we get up here. Okay, now the idea obviously being that instead of having 3 waves like this, we take 3 waves like this. Now it ain't pretty. We get a zigzag for a W. We get an adjoining X wave with a triangle in the middle, which was quite complicated, with an extra ABC in between an ABC to get our X. We then had a final zigzag down, which finished in a truncation in the C, which I don't like either. But my point being is it doesn't matter whether you get down here like this or whether you get down here like this. This is still going to be A, no matter what, in this bearish interpretation. These lows, regardless of how you get down here, is A. Alright, which means that this is B. Okay, which means that now this is a 1 and this is going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 into C, and then we're done. Okay, so the bearish case becomes more probable if we take out this local low here. This becomes a probability. It already is, I should say, but I would start to favour this over the current bullish primary count that I have. Now that doesn't mean I'm favouring this bearish count as the primary, because there might be a bullish alternative which is better that we're going to consider. It just means that I'm downgrading the previous bullish count we were just discussing. Okay, and I would rate this as being higher probability at that point. So far, just to clarify, if these lows break, then this case is of greater probability than this one, which is the 1-2-1-2. Okay, so that's clarified that. But that doesn't mean it's the most probable. We've still got a couple of alternates to consider, which we can't dismiss until proven otherwise. So, the one which is likely to fail the soonest, given the bearish case we were just discussing, is this one. And this is the idea that we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're coming up in a 5. Now we have a zigzag pattern here, as I've labelled, and a flat pattern here, and they're roughly similar size. So we can assume, this one's slightly bigger, but we can assume that it's the same wave degree, unlike our bullish count, which is assuming it's a smaller degree, hence our concerns over the size of the correction. This makes up for that by suggesting that there's a fifth wave to come, and this is all the same intermediate degree count. Okay, so considering this alternate first, is because we have this invalidation point here. We came within a tick, just a tick or two of it, but we didn't invalidate it. This is 52958.51. I make it. If we break this level with even a wick, let alone a body, then this count is wrong, flat out, and we can just delete it flat out because it can't be true. Okay, we have an impulse here, and we have an impulse here. It's not a zigzag into a zigzag into a zigzag. We have a flat pattern here for a start. So it's not going to be a diagonal, so any overlap cancels this out. So if we break this level, we can forget this idea. If we come out of here, then we're just going to have to live with a slightly problematic situation, because we're either coming up in the 3, the minor 3, of the intermediate 3 of the primary 5, or we're coming up into an intermediate 5 of primary 5 and all hell's going to let loose after it completes, or we're coming up in downgrading this to minor wave degree into intermediate 1, in which case this is actually really bullish, and a wave 2 would then result in a much higher wave 3. We won't know until we see the strength of this move. If we see higher RSI readings, massive increase in momentum, strong support from volume rather than divergence across the board, if we see strength here, we can say, well, maybe this is all coming into a 1. If we see everything weakening between our proposed 3 and 5, then we have to get a little bit more suspicious and consider the possibility of this being completing intermediate degree at 5. Okay, but that's a problem for another day. In the meantime, let's just focus on whether or not this low breaks. So that's the next alternate. Finally, I have a new count. So this came about from a discussion we've been having on the Discord, where we've found a way, I presented a way which wasn't the most popular, and I don't particularly like it either, of getting a completed 4 here, not here, which seems to be where a lot of people have considered it, to get an impulse into this, into a 5. So what does that all mean? Well, what it means is I can get an impulse here as 5 waves. Okay. It also means, therefore, that I can get an impulse here as 5 waves. Okay, so what I'm saying is a small impulse here, an impulse here, and an impulse here. This could be a completed 1. Now, we had a similar idea, or there was a member, excuse me, on the Discord who had a similar idea long before we put in these highs, which was one of my initial alternate counts from a long time ago, which was the idea that we had gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 we were going to do into a 1. Now, that got discounted as we came down, made a new high, and we started to prefer this as the major pivot. But now that we did make another high, this gives us the possibility of considering that high as a final wave. We get a wave 1, but we get a wave 3 that is longer than the wave 1, I've measured it, and we get a very short stubby wave 5. So this now gives the possibility of a 1. So getting the able to finish up here is what gives us that possibility. Now the only reason I'm considering this is because of the structure we've seen so far down. I don't think anyone's arguing in the short term that we have 5 waves down. Okay. Now one of the problems we've been dealing with on the Discord is how we bottomed here. We did not get a clear final impulsive move down to this low. It's a big horrible mess. Now we can all look at structure and say, yeah, that's 5 waves. Okay. Well, I agree. It looks like 5 waves. But our assumption has been 5 waves down into a 1 or 5 waves down into a C. So remember, A, B, C, primary count 3, 3, 5. Or our bearish count, 5 waves down into a 1. A, B, C to come into a 2, and off we go. But there is an alternative. There's 1 completing here, 5 waves down into an A. And this is going to be a zigzag at a higher wave degree. A, B, C into a B, 5 waves down into a C. Now, how to rate the probability of this? Well, unfortunately, you've caught me at a time where if these lows had gone, we could have been having a much more realistic discussion about that, but we can't decide that until it happens, because we could go either way. We could fly out of here, continue the bullish trend. We could continue a corrective trend, or we could break these lows. So most of the counts so far seem to be calling for another upward move, at least in the short term, whether it's A, B, C or 1, 2, 3 and up. Now, might as well stick with the bullish count in the meantime unless these lows break, but that is another alternative. So let's just throw it up again as a, there you go, as an idea. So if this was all of this, instead of this being intermediate 1, 2, what if intermediate 1's up here and we're actually way more bullish over the longer term? We're going to go a lot higher. So then we can look for a retracement to the 50 or the 61.8% retracement. We could go deeper in a 2. So we've got targets down here. So what I'll do is I'll just get a little box. Okay, and I'll throw that and this fib in with this alternate 2 count. Okay, now I know what you must be thinking, especially if you're new and you haven't observed Elliott wave much. You must be thinking, well, which one is it? There's so many options. You've only got to go back and watch videos on this channel to see that sometimes it's simple and clear and sometimes it ain't. And we just happen to be in one of those excuse me, voice playing up a bit after talking for 4 hours straight yesterday. We're in one of those situations currently where it's just not very clear. It's just not very clear. So we need to wait for some kind of resolution to what's going on over here. Okay. So how about now we bring up the main bullish count before we move on to Ethereum or some alts, and we have a look at the problems we've been having here and why this is causing us so much confusion. Okay, because it is causing us some serious confusion down here at the moment. Everyone's struggling with the interpretation of this, and a break either way would help considerably. So let's zoom in. Okay, and let's come down to the 1 hour auto the chart. So here's the problematic low. Problematic low. Getting down here in impulse has been incredibly tricky. We have a 1, 2, a gigantic 3, a larger 4, and then a absolutely vile expanding ending diagonal, which I think might be complete bullshit. Now, if we just not put in a lower low, life could have been a lot simpler, because we could have treated some kind of move up here perhaps as a swing to go higher, but we didn't get it. We got a little expansion here at the bottom, so we have to conclude the count at the dominant low, and in order to conclude the count I have to commit Elliott wave murder to some degree, which I'm not particularly happy with, and this is one of the things which has had me a bit concerned, which is I can't get the 5 wave structure from the high that we've been talking about to complete cleanly down here. Just can't get a clean finish. Now, fair enough, it could be this funky ending diagonal. So if that's the case, then this is just keeping everybody on their toes. Okay, this is literally total indecision expressed in Elliott waveform. We've had an unconvincing finish, we've had a pop, and therefore none of us are certain about whether this is over or whether we want to go lower. And because no one's certain about whether or not this finished properly and this is over, whether you follow Elliott wave or not, everybody has their concerns. We're just kind of hanging around thinking, oh, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And that's essentially what the market's doing at the moment. So all of this sideways behavior, the best way I can currently interpret it is that we did have a move off of a low in a 1, sticking with the idea that these lows hold and we're going to support our bullish can unless these lows break. If these lows break, we downgrade this, upgrade the bearish can, and then consider our bullish alternates as price develops. Okay, but in the meantime, this is 1. This is ABC expanding B, expanding flat into A at minute degree. This is A, B, triangle for the B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C into a truncated B here. So the B is expansive, if you see what I mean. Let me show you. Here's the start of the A. Here's the B. The B comes to a higher position than where the A began. So the B is expansive. The problem is we have a 3-wave swing here where the C completes below the A at a subwave at the subwave degree, which is a truncated zigzag in this case, with 5 through here, a triangle for our connecting wave, and then 5 through here, finishing in a truncation, which is absolutely vile, if I'm being absolutely honest. It happens, but it's rare and it's ugly as hell. Now we had what appeared to be a 1-2. Okay, and then you could have said 3, 4, 5, C, done, off we go, 2's in. But now we've had this move, and this complicates things even further. We've either, if we come down even smaller to the 15 minute, we either had a 1, 2, very large 4, 5. That makes things relatively simple. A, B, C, 2. Then we come down 3, 4, 5, finish in a C of the 2. We'd have to finish before these lows, sorry, otherwise it wouldn't be valid. So 3, 4, 5, C, 2, and then off we go. Now you can see how already we're running a bit out of room, and this extra move has made it more difficult. Like I said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would have been okay. This extra move has made things a bit more complicated. Now we could say 1, A, B, C, 2, but I don't see 5 waves in here to complete a C. So could we say, you know, W, X, Y, 3, 3, 3. Well, maybe. Either way, that gives us a 1 and then a 2. And then we can come down 3, 4, 5. But I'm not a big fan, putting it simply. So the most bullish interpretation is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, done. Okay, so we've moved our C to here, our 2 to here. And then this is, well, it's 3 waves. If we take the dominant high, so we'd have to avoid that and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, A, B, C, 2. Right, another flat pattern, 3, 4, 5. So you can see the problems we've got here in the smaller time frame. Okay, which is why just focusing on these lows on the larger time frame makes life a lot simpler. So what we want to see, let's try and keep things as clean as possible. If that correction, as sideways, messy and ugly as it is another flat pattern ABC, then we can come flying out of here in a 3, or we can be going A, B, C, bearish into retracement and then collapse further in the bearish count. So now that we've discussed all the possibilities, and we know we're watching for these lows, and these highs would help. If these highs break, we're continuing, right? So at least now we know A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. It's got to be one of those two at that point. That makes things a lot simpler and helps considerably. If these lows break, it helps a lot as well. You know, if we get a clear break of this regression channel, for example, and we get above this, this is going to help as well. but it's just uncertain at the moment. So now that we've discussed all of the Elliott wave, let's have a look at what we want to see happen with our indicators, our moving averages and our volume to try and get an idea of what's going to happen, or how we can tell what's happening. So let's bring up our moving averages. Let's come back out to the day time frame first. Okay. Let's bring up our indicators and let's bring up our volume. Now let's hide the count as it's making things a little too messy. We can always come back and discuss it. So far we are below the blue line, which is the 20 exponential moving average on the daily. We are below the 10 exponential moving average on the daily. We are below the 60 exponential moving average on the daily, which is the orange line, and we are still plenty above the 250-day exponential moving average here, which is previously operated as support. Okay. We are seeing no, excuse me, doodling on the chart again. We are seeing no big increase in volume yet to support the idea that we're breaking higher. We are seeing declining volume for the last 3 sessions as we correct. So it's a correction before shooting up into the C or starting the 3. So volume, if we break higher, will increase. Okay, we'll get higher readings in volume. At that point, we can start to assess how it's looking on the smaller time frame. Now, on the day time frame, on the RSI, we have some divergence here between the RSI lows and the lows in price back here and here. So there is some bullish divergence on the RSI in the day time frame. There is none on the MACD. And momentum is looking pretty pathetic. Now, it could still accelerate and get our foot on the gas. We've had a buy signal, but unless we get the histogram and the, as I've explained before, we think of this as shifts in momentum. Alright, from positive to negative, negative to positive. Okay, and the way I like to think of the histogram here is putting our foot on the gas to the upside, putting our foot on the gas to the downside. Okay, as you can see, during this long corrective move down, or potentially impulsive move down, we've been putting our foot on the gas to the downside and not onto the upside. Foot on the gas to the downside and not onto the upside. So unless this situation changes and we see a big increase in momentum here being recorded and we get our backsides back above the zero bound, then the bearish tendency, the bearish trend is still dominant and is still taking taking precedent for the moment. So at the moment, not very convincing, is it? We've got weak RSI readings, some minor divergence on the daily time frame, some weak momentum here in the MACD. We could push higher, but all of this is very synonymous with the uncertainty in this price action at the moment. If we break higher, then we want to see that situation change. If it doesn't improve vastly, okay, then, and we don't get a big impressive move up, a big impulsive aggressive move up, then a corrective move is more likely before we continue lower. If, however, we rip out of here in a matter of hours and go flying, and we have the momentum and the volume comes in to support it, we can be more confident that this was 1-2 all along and we're going higher. And that's really it at the moment. If we were coming up into resistance, my bet would be, let's come down to the 4 hour, bring up the bearish count for the moment. So I've got a little box over here that's going to need to move sideways along with the 2. So if we take a fib, run our fib down from the high to the dominant low, which is this one here, we can see that we get a 50% retrace, which is the blue line, and we get it back up a bit. we get it right around our point of control here, around this peak in the volume profile. Get another little peak here around the golden zone. So let's now project 1 to 1. Assume for the moment that the B wave's in or close to in. 100 would put us here. Okay, this white line here. So in this territory is where I would expect resistance if we're bearish. Okay, so let's leave that up there and lock it in place. Okay, so if we're bearish, that's where I would expect resistance, in this box around 61. It could be lower, it could be higher. Okay, but that's where I think we'd find resistance. Now, if we come out of here, volume increases, nice big green bars here on the volume, positive shift in momentum, thrusting higher quickly and violently, and we smash through all of this, then this is far more likely to be a 3 than it is a C. So we'll never be completely certain. This is the problem, because a 2, as everybody knows, could potentially retrace 99.9% of the wave 1 down. But surely in that scenario we would expect to see a much higher position for the A before we get a B, before we get a C. And at the moment, if this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for our A, I think we're very much pushing the limit of that. I think at that point it's more likely that this is already an A, this is going to B, and this is going to C, and we're going to pull back into the more likely territory for a wave 2, which is a 50 to 61.8% retracement. Alright. All of this is based on the idea that we head higher from here, guys, remember. We could still collapse and take out these lows. So it really is a little indecisive at the moment. As you can see on the 4-hour time frame here, the 250 moving average that I use, and one of the reasons why I prefer it over 100 or 200, the 250 here is just proving to be a really oppressive son of a bitch at the moment. Every time we come up to meet this thing, we're told to go away. And now we're just here and we're getting kind of annoyed with it, and we just got to either punch through it and say done with you, or we're going to get kicked down lower. Okay, so that's the things we're going to look for. If we move higher, we want to see volume support it, we want to see the MACD support it, we want to see the RSI support it. If we move lower, we downgrade the probability of the bullish count, we favour the bearish count in the short term until we see more price data, more momentum indicators, more information to help us decide which bullish alternate we prefer. Thankfully, one will be eliminated automatically, which is the idea that this is 3 and 4, because we will invalidate it. That will leave us 2 left. Well, actually 1 left out of the ones that presented. I'm still working on another one with some of the ideas that are being thrown around the Discord. So, awful lot of talk about very little, I'm afraid, today, guys. We've gone on and on and on. I've tried to explain it to you the best I possibly can, but this is just what happens sometimes. Sometimes it's not clear and we don't know. And that's it, really. But we will know soon enough. We can eliminate one count and we can downgrade another count and upgrade another. All we need to see is these lows break to do that. A thrust higher, we need to see support for the bullish case across the board, if that's going to be the case, for us to believe it. Alright, I think that's all I've got for you here on Bitcoin, so we should really go and look at something else now, shouldn't we? Right, so let's go and have a look at Ether. Now, totally different kettle of fish. Here on Ether, we've come a lot higher already than we have in Bitcoin. Things were looking very similar. So, we have, in essence, if I just remove the count for a moment, we have the same idea for our bullish primary as we do in Bitcoin, but it looks a hell of a lot better here than it does in Bitcoin, because this looks like a very convincing 1-2 and this looks like a smaller 1-2. Okay, so already subwave looking smaller than the larger wave. So I like that. That looks good. We seem to get a much clearer conclusion in 3 waves here and the clearer impulse out of it than we do in Bitcoin. We'll come in and look at the smaller time frame as well to try and make sense of this. Okay, but it does look cleaner than it does in Bitcoin. The same basic rule applies. If these lows break for any reason, this bullish interpretation starts to break down quick sharp. But for the meantime, it's looking better here in Ethereum than it was in Bitcoin. So let's just take from this low what we're looking at so far. Now we do get an incredibly deep 2 here, but we also get a pretty clear 5-wave structure here. Okay, down into the 2, and then oops a daisy. Then we work our way up through here. Then we work our way down to here. Then we work our way up through here. Then down to here, and now we're back at the median line. So what you're looking at here is a regression channel, and as you can see, it's proving resistance here, and resistance here. It's proving resistance here as well, support here, resistance here, support here. So this is what we're bouncing around. Now a break back above the mean line here would leave a new all-time high within a very short period of time. We'd be at a new all-time high and a push back to the top of the channel. Right, once we're up here we can correct again and continue to push higher again, and so on and so forth. Right, so we've got a little bit of work to do to make this more convincing, but it is looking better than Bitcoin's looking. Okay, so let's remove this regression channel for the moment, and let's dig into the smaller time frame of the count, because I don't have multiple alternates here. I have a bullish count and a bearish count. I haven't had to consider alternatives for the bullish count because this just looks better. Okay, so if we come down to the 15-minute time frame for a minute, I think gives us a bit more perspective on the 1 hour. So what I've got here is we get subdivision in a wave 3, and we get a wave 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, A. 3 waves swing into the B, flush down in an impulse in the C, completing a 2 with a lower low. The completion to this, because we don't get a forced low here, like we do in Bitcoin, is a lot cleaner. Okay? We can also get a diagonal in here. Okay? And then we can get a 3-wave correction to a higher low here. From there, we start to impulse higher. Now we're correcting again. Now exactly how this could be a completed 1 up here rather than a 3, 4 that I've got it. So this could be a more substantial correction now into a 2. Okay, or this could be done and now we're going to start impulsing again. Either way, the same principle we've been observing applies, which is for as long as this low holds, we can continue to count this bullishly. Alright, so overall more confident here than I am in Bitcoin. Right, so let's come out to the 4 hour now, and let's remove the count and bring up the bearish count. Okay, so I love doodling on my chart. So let's consider the bearish count. We've got the 3 back here. We've got an A here. We've got a big A, B, C into a B here. Then from here, the only way I can really get this to work in the short term, from a bearish point of view, is the same 5 waves down, but into a 1. 3-wave swing into a 2, and now we're going to fly down here in a 3. 4, 5. Alright, this is a very deep 2. Very deep. Okay. Right. It's just how deep is it? I think it's around 89. Yeah, 89. Yeah, 89 to the tick. Right, so we went straight for a fib number. Didn't go for the 61.8 golden ratio, but we went for the fib here at 89. Touched this, got rejected. It could be an incredibly deep 2, pushing 90% of the 1. They can happen, they do happen, but they're rarer. It would be Max Payne scenario, I think, for a lot of people who don't necessarily appreciate these things. They see us imminently making a new high, and then we fail by a tick and absolutely collapse. So if you support the idea of Max Payne leading the way, this would be that likely Max Payne scenario, which is, you know, fool everybody, then smash them. But so I'm going to say the same. For as long as this holds and we continue to impulse, I'm going to expect the correction and the thrust to new highs. If the situation changes in the next few days, then the situation changes. But for the moment, that's how I'm looking at things. So I'm still in favour of the bullish count at the moment. I prefer it over this bearish interpretation. I think we've done 1, 2, 1, 2, and now we're moving higher. There is the possibility, nope there isn't, I was about to say the possibility of 3-4, but there isn't the possibility of 3-4, it cannot be allowed. If this is 1 and this is 2, then we have already overlapped here, so this can't be 3-4. Alright, so the count that we're waiting to see potentially getting validated in Bitcoin, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, can't exist here anyway. So that's a positive. So remove those. Bring up the bullish case again. So that's a positive, like I was saying. The only thing which makes me just a little nervous is that we've hit the 89 fib to the tick and we've been rejected. Temporarily. It could just be a retracement, but it is a little double toppy at the moment. You know. Alright, let's look to see if there's any obvious problems anywhere else. So, alright, let's remove the count for the moment and have a look at the indicators and everything else. Volume. Okay. So, unlike Bitcoin, where we're below the 10, the 20 and the 60 on the day time frame, quick reminder, below the 10, 20 and 60, we're above the 10, 20 and 60, having found strong support here at the 60. Alright, so that looks pretty cool. Pretty weak volume here throughout this move up. Some slightly increased volume here in this thrust up. If that's 1 on relatively low volume, and this is 2, and this now starts to increase in a 3, if it increases in a 3, that would be reassuring. RSI is looking pretty weak, but not as weak as in Bitcoin. We're into neutral territory in the RSI. The MACD is looking equally pathetic, to be honest. Early days, above the zero bound with the average, pushing the signal above the zero bound, taking the foot off the gas from the downside, starting to pull it onto the upside, but a darker bar. Really, we want to just see big, bright green coming into the histogram here and get roaring out of here. So this is a little concerning that we're not yet showing any real conviction or real appetite for making a new high at the moment. But overall, gotta say, overall it looks stronger than Bitcoin. I think anybody with a pair of eyes can see that it just looks better. So we're going to have to leave Ethereum here as we are Bitcoin, saying watch these lows, watch this impulsive move. If this breaks down, momentum turns negative again, RSI starts to collapse, and if volume supports a move to the downside, then these lows are probably in jeopardy, and then we would upgrade the bearish case, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with a deep 2, and we would downgrade the bullish case. And that's that. I think we'd have to take the bearish as an alternate here, because I don't have a bullish alternate for Ether at the moment. If you've got one and you're a member of the Green Star Trading Patreon and you're on the Discord, feel free to present one to me. I'll happily look at it. Alright, so short and sweet, looking at Ether, far less complicated than Bitcoin. So let's move on. Okay, so now a nice speedy wrap up with a couple of alts. So XRP. Now for me, this has been one of the clearer accounts since the low. We get a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a 1. We get a clear 5 waves. That's that. You know, we get a higher low here than this low. It's a clear 5 waves. The zigzag you would expect to divide in the middle. Not here or here. So it just has the right look for an impulse. Good, strong, long 3. 5 being roughly equivalent, but not quite. Slightly longer than the 1. But significantly closer to the 1 than the 3 in length. So all of this screams 1 to me. Then we have 3. 3. That screams flat to me. Then we have 1, 2. Arguably an incomplete 3, 4 with a 5 to come. Now it's possible we put in a low and we're impulsing up out of here already. Okay, and that way we can probably count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. 1, 2, and off we go. And it's starting to give a potential entry here now with the retracement we've got going on, what we would be looking for the standard trade setup if you wanted to go long. That is, I had a target down here at 1-to-1 parity for the A here being equaled by the C projected from the B, which gives us 0.79, so 79 cents, 79.5 cents. And that would finish, let's have a quick look at the bigger picture. If there's anything down here, we're actually going into a bit of a null zone here actually in the volume. That can sometimes happen. We've got a little point here, a bit of a null around here, around the 50. How's it looking log? Not much better really. So 1-to-1 parity would have us finish around here. Now we could have finished with a higher low. This would be a running flat. Well, actually, would it? Would it? You see, I wouldn't expect that to be the case. We did not make a higher high. Right, so we have to really look at this as a regular flat. Now we could truncate in a regular flat, but it would be more normal to make a lower C. We've got a perfect hit here on the golden zone with the A. So I'm still favouring the idea of a bit of a push down, just to get beyond the A, get the C beyond the A, and look for a completion down here in 5 waves. You know, now it's not saying, there's no saying, but it has to be that early. This could go deeper. 3, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perhaps. But for the meantime, I think I'm going to put the 3 here and the 4 here. If the level I'm using for my wave 1 here gets taken out, then the impulse to the downside is invalidated, and this was 1 and this was 2, and we're in the 3, and we're going to go higher. Okay, and that's how I see that. So that's XRP. Let's just bring up our indicators. Still looking pretty weak down here on the RSI. Had oversold conditions. No bullish divergence between these recent lows, so maybe we're going to set a look with another move down. We'll get some bullish divergence. MACD looking weak below the zero bound, taking our foot off the gas to the downside, but no buy signal yet. No bullish momentum coming in yet. If the histogram suddenly turns green and bright and we get a bullish signal here and a crossover, then we should be looking to invalidate that level, that wave 1 low. Invalidation above that to push higher would be very bullish, and then we'd be looking for the structure to support it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 into a 1, A, B, C into a 2. Here's your buy opportunity. Off we go into a big 3. Alright, so that's what we'd be looking for here in XRP. I suspect we're not done, that we're going to come down a little lower. Could be wrong, but we're going to look for invalidation here if we go higher. And we're going to look for support in the RSI and support in the MACD over the longer term, taking out these highs in the MACD and a new overbought condition, taking out this corrective period in the RSI would be wonderful to see. It'd be very positive if that were to occur. So that's something to watch. Volume. Yeah, no real convincing move off of this low. Not yet. Okay, not a convincing push. So more likely corrective before heading lower. Could be, but if it completes a 1-2 and starts to go in the 3 to invalidate this, we'd want to see volume increase, green to the upside, supported by RSI and MACD as well. Where are we regarding our moving averages? Currently testing the 250 day. So that's why we're snagging. It could be a low here. We have a long wick to the downside on this candle. Is it a hammer? Is it? Yes, is it? Let's just do a little box. Drag the box down to the bottom. Put a line across its low. And then drag the box down again. Yeah, the wick is double the length of the candle at least. So this is a hammer, and we've had bullish continuation. So a low indeed, but is it temporary or is it permanent? But we have got a nice bullish candle here on the day time frame at the 250, bodying above it. So maybe I'm being a little pessimistic, and maybe this is a low. Not much to support the idea that it is though yet, to be honest. We need to see. Now if we rip out of here, smash through all these moving averages, smash through this point of control, volume profile here, see pushed up with the RSI, see green bars and the histograms, buy signal on the average over the signal, volume supporting it, all that lovely stuff. Then we can be bullish, look for that invalidation up here. Whoops, that's supposed to be a straight line. Invalidation across this wave 1 here, and then we can be very bullish, looking for 5 waves to complete into a 1, looking for a retracement of 2, and then we'll get a big move up in the 3. So that's what I see with XRP. That's what we should be on the lookout for. And yeah, we'll see how it goes from here. So we just got one more to look at, and then we'll wrap up. Alright then, to round things off, we are going to be looking at SHIB. I say Marmite because that seems to be the attitude towards this coin. You either love it or you hate it. You either argue to the death that it's a shit coin and doesn't deserve anything good to happen to it. My argument would be nobody cares about your argument at the end of the day. And I'm not attacking anybody who thinks that way. I couldn't care less how you think at the end of the day in terms of, oh well, it's a shit coin, it's a shit project. No one gives a fuck. No one gives a flying fuck. Okay, that's just the God's honest truth. And I'm not devaluing your insight or your expertise you may have or understanding you may have on a coin. It's just nobody cares. Okay, because that's not the market we're in. The day will come when those fundamentals matter and your arguments make sense and they're supported by facts. But at the moment, they're not. Okay, the only thing that supports this coin and how many other so-called shit coins is people throwing money at it. And that's it. Now, that could be over, or it could only just be getting started. And if it's only just getting started, then who cares whether it's a good project or a bad project? The only thing that matters is it's going up and you hold it. That's it. Alright, so on that note, enough of my little rant, let's move on. So, we're done or we're not. There you go. We're either done or we're not. Now, what makes me think we might be done? Well, this for a start. A 3-wave move down to the 61.8% or what we call the golden ratio with like a triple bottom down here. Low, 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 low. Bodying every candle above the golden ratio and then pop higher. Now, could be a temporary low, could be the low. But what we see so far is another move and another pullback. Right? So this is potentially a 1, this is potentially a 2, which means 3. Okay? I don't think you can go wrong looking at that at the moment because you've got this here as a stop. So win or lose, as long as you're not a maniac leveraging the crap out of yourself and you're trying to literally commit monetary suicide, then this is, for a coin this volatile, this is about as safe as it's going to get. know, the only way it could get safer would be to have a completed move lower down, right? And then an impulse up and another move back, and then you can use that as your stop for the same trade. Okay, but this is about as safe as it's going to get for something this volatile and this crazy. So, good case scenario, we've gone WXY to the golden ratio, 1, 2, we're all going to be rich. Okay, or we've gone something else, that this is a correction, this is going to be a correction, and this is going to be a correction. And we're going to come down lower and deeper and further. And that's that really, guys, at the moment. If I look at the day time frame, what have we done from a moving average point of view? We've come straight back through the 10, through the 20, to the 60, spent a bunch of time bodying around the 60 and the 61.8 fib. We've come back above the 10 and the 20. We've come back through the 20 and the 10, back to the 60 again. So, are we just testing resistance and support? Okay, golden ratio, through the moving averages, back to a major moving average, and then move. We'll know soon enough. If we bounce from the 60 here, then we are on our way. Now we are either A, B, C, in which case, once we're above this high, you can protect yourself from the worst case scenario, or even this high, depending on when you get in, or this high, depending on when you get in. Best case scenario, 1, 2, 3, and you're never going to see this low again. Alright? Wouldn't that be great? So, there you go, that's how I see SHIB at the moment. If we look at our indicators. Alright then. Meandering around the neutral zone in the RSI, no round trip on the day time frame. A little unsettling. I prefer to see overbought all the way down to oversold. We never got it. So that's a slight feather in the cap of the idea that we've got lower to come. Okay, but we're so close to the lows already. You know, the MACD is not very convincing. But then again, after this, what's going to be? Alright, it's all relative, isn't it? If you're going 1, 2, you know, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, you know, on the actual price chart, then every time you think you've had a huge swing in the MACD, this was a huge swing in the MACD, this was a huge swing in the MACD until this happened, right? Oops. So the day may come when this is a tiny swing and we're looking at something that dwarfs it. Right, so just keep an open mind. Not convincing at the moment, I will say. Need to see this pick up. Starting to roll over. Need to see this pick up if we've bottomed here. Need to get out of here ASAP. Okay, as soon as possible. Get out of here ASAP, see the momentum come in, see the volume increase, see the RSI run for overbought as fast as it can. Get right up in here, get overbought, get strong momentum and just keep trending higher. You know, we'll have to wait and see. But as far as the technical setup goes at the golden ratio, this is about as clear as it gets. So whether you want to take it or not is totally up to you. But you know, you've got obvious stops down here to get yourself out. If you get another impulse on a smaller time frame, you can move it higher. You can start higher. Okay, just my opinion. So that's SHIB. Alright then guys, I think we'll call it there. Thank you for joining me on this Crypto Day analysis. If you're new to the channel and you like what you've seen, please smash the like, hit the little bell notification icon to remain informed of future video releases. Subscribe, should have probably said that first. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, there's a link in the description box below. Go over, have a read of the tiers, see if there's anything you're interested in. It's right at the start of a new month, so if you sign up now, you won't get charged again until the start of the next month, which means you get a whole month's value out of what you pay. Okay, and if you're not following me on Twitter yet, there's a link in the description box below as well. Follow me on Twitter. I use it as a backup for notifying people of new videos. Alright then guys, take care of yourselves, have a lovely weekend, and I'll be back with you next week. Take care, bye bye.